very serious issue.
Yeah, we will talk about the regional issues a little later in the evening. But I do want to switch now to focus a little bit on California. So snowpack is, of course, a huge issue for us. And when we talk about snowpack, we're talking about water. So the slide that we have shows, the diminished role of snowpack in California. So from a California perspective, and then the larger issue of water and the climate change, we often don't zero in on that. We talk about sea level rise, but we don't talk about the distribution of water and the system. So could we talk about that for a little bit? What challenges California faces?
Well, one of the silver linings of climate change is that it's putting water vapor into the Earth's atmosphere. The sort of the dark cloud that silver lining is surrounding is the fact that where the water is falling is moving. So the storm tracks that have fed water into California for its entire recorded history, in fact, its entire geologic history, those storm tracks are moving northward. We can measure that from space. We can measure it from the ground. And at the same time, as we make the climate hotter, the precipitation that does falls as rain rather than snow. So the problem is that in California, we have sort of two time-release sources of water. Water that we can, basically water banks. Those are the huge aquifer under the Central Valley, and which is a long-lived bank. And then a shorter shorter-lived bank, which is the snowpack. And because when the climate heats, it's more likely that the precipitation will fall as snow rather than, fall as rain rather than snow. We're depleting that second bank. California is going to have to adapt to the loss of that bank. And this paces, it's a pacing issue for us. It's a real challenge to our water agencies. And how California deals with that issue is going to be one that's going to test our ability to come up with cooperative and societally and environmentally sustainable solutions.
Okay, I want to close out this first segment by dealing directly, because it obviously speaks to your research, which I'm sure you're going to discuss. But there are still some, of course, who argue that human activity is not responsible in any way for climate change. So I know your research addresses that directly, so I'd like you to explain to the audience about radiative forcing and other things that you've studied. And let's kind of put that to bed once and for all, and we'll get it on tape.
Sure. There are two ways that we know that mankind is causing climate change. The first is that we can compare what's happening now to the geologic record. And in the geologic record, the big actors were changes in the sun and changes due to volcanoes. Those both produce signatures in the temperature of the climate system that don't match what we're seeing now. The only way that we can explain the temperature signals that we're seeing now, and this is the fact that the lower atmosphere is warming and the upper atmosphere is cooling, the only way to explain that is from an increase in greenhouse gases. There's no other physics that can explain that. So then you ask, where's this greenhouse gas coming from? Well, we know the answer to that too, because carbon comes in different flavors. These are called isotopes. Plants like light isotopes, and you see a different mix of these isotopes from fossil fuels. The only way to explain the increase in carbon dioxide that we're seeing in the Earth's atmosphere right now is from fossil fuel combustion. It's not from volcanoes, it's only from fossil fuels. So point A, we know the only way to explain the temperature pattern is from greenhouse gases. Point B, we know the only way to explain the greenhouse gases is from fossil fuel combustion. Case closed.
Okay.
So this is the reason why, and those 2 points, by the way, there's essentially no serious contest to those 2 points in the literature. There's a lot of nibbling around the edges, but no serious debate.
Okay. On that note, we're going to end our first segment. So we are now